Democratic Congressman Paul Kanjorski is chairman of the House Capital Markets Subcommittee. Congressman, good to have you back.
My pleasure, Carl.
A lot's been said about the jobs number over the weekend, but some of your thoughts, and I wonder if you think we are now in any kind of self-sustaining mode when it comes to jobs in this country.
Well, I think we are. I agree with the president that we probably turned the corner. It hasn't been spectacular, but we're on our way to growth. I think now the big thing, Carl, is that we concentrate on being optimistic in terms of the psychology of the nation. Sometimes we tend to get a pessimistic attitude, and that does have an impact on the market, an impact on investment, and ultimately an impact on employment.
You've been saying that for a while, finding a way to change the mood in the country being key. Does that have any ramifications on the ability of the White House to get any kind of financial reform bill?
Well, I think it's not only the White House's action, and I talked with the president a little less than 2 weeks ago on that subject. I think he's very much dedicated to seeing through the regulatory reform bill. But what's now going to happen in the Senate, and then when the Senate and the House get into conference, it's important. You know, if I may just make a little critique, Carl, it would help a great deal if the media would be a little more informing as to what's in the two bills, the one that came out of the House and the one that potentially will come out of the Senate. Over the weekend, I listened to a lot of the talking heads, and they really weren't clear as to what's contained in those bills.
Really? Where are they leading the public astray? Does it involve consumer protection or derivatives or what?
No. Actually, in the two areas, the Volcker rule and my amendment in terms of too big to fail. In many instances, they're giving indications. I listened to one critique on one of the new books that's out that the House bill doesn't contain a very strong reaction to too big to fail. That's quite wrong. The reaction that we actually have filed in the law is probably the strongest I can imagine. And I think the American people, if properly informed, it's right on course with what they want. And I think what we want to do is make sure that we let the American people know what we are intending to give them in the law is something that they have desired and have asked for these last several months.
So how do you deal with too big to fail? The big problem has been that it's really hard to unwind, let's say, the Polish mortgage operation for a big bank here in the United States. Sometimes it's not just the law, it's the actual just physical ability to get the thing done.
Michelle, you're absolutely correct. Nobody said this was going to be an easy chore, but the power in the House bill, I think it will be contained in the Senate bill when it finally comes out of the Senate, is that we've granted these regulators the authority to go in to organizations that are considered too large to fail, but that's really a misnomer. It's too interconnected, too involved, too much at risk, not enough capital that they could cause systemic risk. Those organizations, even though they're operating in a positive mode now and not at risk immediately, that pose a future risk to the system, should be handled. And the regulators under the new law will have the authority to go in there, limit their products, require additional equity, or to break them up if necessary if they don't properly respond. But what we want to do is end the idea that there will be financial institutions in the United States and around the world, for that matter, that could bring the entire system down.
Congressman, let's talk about the timing for a second. When do we think this is actually going to get passed, or at least get to the floor where we could see an opportunity for it to be passed? I know that the administration has talked about Memorial Day as a sort of a goal line, at least. Is that possible?
I think that is possible, Andy. I think that we're going to work on it. And I think it's going to move through the Senate rather quickly. I think the biggest part of the whole bill will be in conference. And I think we probably Barney Frank is talking about an open C-SPAN conference. I think that's a very good idea because it'll give definition to the American people as to what's in the reform bill. We probably can do that within a matter of 2 weeks and then pass it both in the House and the Senate. I'm sorry.
Fannie and Freddie, are they too big to fail? When does that get taken care of? And those are going to cost us all a lot more money than anything else in this bailout.
Well, that's true, but Fannie and Freddie are the next thing on our schedule. We're trying to first get through regulatory reform, and then we're going to get through Fannie Freddie probably early next year. The cost, Michelle, that's something we should concentrate on. the cost actually of this bailout, it will end up being almost nothing or something very insignificant, and we're not concentrating on that. This money is coming back to the American taxpayer and to the Treasury, the $700 billion that we used to stabilize the system. A large portion of that has already been returned. I think we have to make sure that the American people know that we performed a very successful rescue operation in the last year, and now we're structuring a foundation to build a modern economy for decades ahead.
Congressman, one last question. Michelle mentioned Fannie and Freddie. That's not in this bill. There have been some that have speculated that the Republicans could try to bring it into this bill in part to blow it up. What do you see as the big challenge in terms of getting this passed? Is there something in here that could pose a problem? I know there's still a debate over the Consumer Protection Group, or Protection Agency, and Shelby, I think, and Dodd have been trying to get closer on that. But what do you see as the challenge?
I don't see a challenge of blowing it up. I see there are some strong differences of opinion on the two sides. I think they're able to be reconciled. And I really believe this is one bill that's going to be bipartisan in the Democrats and send a very workable piece of legislation to the president.
We will see if that happens, and we'll try to keep the media in line. You know how unruly they can be.